So let's now transition to talking about food and how it works through epigenetics. Food is a signal from the environment that sends information into our cells, into our DNA, and works through this process of epigenetics where you start decorating your DNA and turning on different genes. And we know that nutrition has good effects on nerve health and neurodegeneration. So nutrients generally provide the raw materials needed for these genes to be turned on. They can also work on the actual enzymes involved in turning on these different systems, right? Turning on PPAR gamma or NF-kappa B. So food can actually help modulate what pathways are turned on or off, right? What's great about this is that we actually have control over this, right? Like I always like talking about things that we can control because that's powerful, right? That puts choice in our hands. So let's take the group of polyphenols, which are foods, these are molecules found widely in plant-based foods, not just fruits and vegetables, but also beans and seeds and legumes, tea and coffee even have them. Polyphenols are known to turn off NF-kappa B, the bad guy. They inhibit the inflammatory cytokine molecules that go and create inflammation. So that's a good thing. They actually suppress inflammatory genes. And then they increase antioxidants. Remember, I said if you have more antioxidants, you can buffer those dangerous molecules that can go around and damage cells. And of course, they reduce reactive oxygen species. So the effect of consuming polyphenols is that it's anti-inflammatory, it's full of antioxidants, and it protects the brain. Okay, it's all good stuff and it's all food. But let's dig into what some of these foods are, and then I'm going to go into a little more detail and give you some data. So here are just 4 groups of polyphenols. There's many more, but look at this. This is a wide variety of plant-based foods, a lot of green stuff here, lots of berries here, and even beans and seeds. So this will just kind of give you an idea of where these molecules hide in food. So let's talk about a flavanol molecule called Apigenin, and it's found in many things like parsley, chamomile, celery, spinach, artichokes, oregano. If you kind of notice, they're all kind of green things. And we know Apigenin is a polyphenol that it has antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. How do we know that it actually helps? Well, there was a study done where they used these mice, the EAE mice, that's the mouse model for experiments. And they looked at mice who ended up having relapsing, remitting MS or progressive MS, and gave them foods that contained Apigenin. They saw less immune cells that were sort of wonky entering the brain, right? And we know that that's actually part of what happens with MS. Activated immune cells cross into the brain and start attacking various parts of the brain. So there was less immune cells entering the brain and less demyelination. And they were able to measure less relapse and progression in these mice, okay? We don't have a lot of human studies, actually. As you can see, it would be hard to do a study like this in humans, but we have demonstrated this in mice. So my take-home message is maybe there is something to that celery juice craze after all, because I think there's not a day that I go through when I'm seeing patients where somebody goes, can I continue doing my daily celery juice? And I'm like, yeah, if you like it, do it. But a lot of people seem to love it. But I also don't want you to get into this rut of, nutritionism where we like reduce nutrition down to its most basic parts and just get stuck on, okay, I'm going to do celery juice every day, right? My point is that there's a lot of foods out there that are great, but we know that, for example, people do celery juice and they feel great. Okay, maybe it has to do with the Apigenin content. Anthocyanins are another type of polyphenol, and they're found in these deeply pigmented berries that are black and red and blue. So when you're looking at food, you're looking at colors because that's where all the healing molecules are. So anthocyanins are also anti-inflammatory. There are potent antioxidants, and they do a lot to restore balance in cells, working on ion pumps. You don't have to know too much about that. And when they've given anthocyanin molecules to rats who had they use ethidium bromide to induce MS in rats. Again, they saw less entry of immune cells into the brain, less inflammatory molecules, and they looked at some of the good cytokines like IL-10, which is an anti-inflammatory molecule, and those levels rose. So the take-home point here is go for deep colors because they work through epigenetics and they can influence what happens in the central nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord. So going for color is really important. Going for color where the color actually goes through the entire fruit or vegetable is even better. Like I think about it as like a beet versus an apple. Apple's kind of brown, tan in the middle. A beet is pigmented all the way through. So go look for these molecules throughout the supermarket and just start stocking up on color. Here's another molecule, EGCG, and I was trying to practice so I could tell you what EGCG stands for, so I could impress you, but I can never remember how to say it. It's like Epigenetic something gallate, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's actually highly available in green tea, right? And it's like a really potent antioxidant molecule. You can also get it in black and white tea and lots of berries and fruits and nuts and seeds. Again, this is where it's full of antioxidants. It decreases those reactive oxygen species, those dangerous molecules, and there's evidence that it inhibits NF-kappa B, which was the bad guy. All good things, right? We don't have medications that can really do this. It's only really food that is available to us that can have these broad effects. And they did another interesting study in EAE mice who were given Copaxone, which is a drug used to treat MS, and then they gave EGCG as well. And what they saw was there was, compared to mice that only got Copaxone, there was significant delayed onset of MS. And if the mice went on to get MS, it was less severe. And there was also less disability associated with mice that also got the EGCG, okay? Again, it's not a human study, but I think it illustrates something important. There's something happening here, and there's synergy between a natural product like EGCG and a medication like Copaxone, okay, that's used for MS. So think about synergy. When we use lots of different tools, we actually get a greater effect. So I never get involved in the decision of medications for MS. That's between you and your neurologist. But using medications with a lot of natural therapies like food and good sleep and exercise really gives you a lot of synergy, and that's what we're going for. And if you're only relying on natural therapies and you're not on medications, it's even more important to think about all of the different natural things you could use that are not pharmaceuticals. It just takes a lot more tools when you're working with natural products, because they're not made to be powerful pharmaceuticals.